Two black teens stepped into a car dealership full of hope and respect, and were kicked out moments later for looking like trouble. The next day, their billionaire father didn't show up to shout. He came to make sure the whole world saw the truth. The sun burned hot over Tempe that afternoon, one of those dry, slow Arizona days when heat hums through the pavement. Malik Townsend had just finished track practice, his grey t-shirt stuck to his back as he walked next to his sister, Ayana, across the lot of Madison Auto Gallery. They weren't there to mess around. Malik had talked about this visit all week. "I'm not saying I'm buying a car today," he said, adjusting his gym bag strap, "but I want to see what they have, maybe something used, just to get an idea before my birthday." Ayana laughed, flipping her braids over her shoulder. "You really think Dad's going to let you drive yourself to school in a two-door coupe?" "Come on," he grinned, but kept walking. "Let me dream." The lot was quiet. Sleek silver sedans sat in rows under faded flags. The glass doors shimmered in the heat. They stepped inside like any two kids with questions and wide eyes. Inside, the cold air hit hard, cutting through the warmth outside. A middle-aged man in a pale blue shirt looked up from behind the counter. His eyes landed on Malik first, then slid to Ayana. They looked clean, Malik in athletic clothes, Ayana in a simple dress and sneakers, nothing flashy, nothing loud. Still the man stood up quickly. "Can I help you?" he asked, voice sharp. Polite as always, Malik stepped forward. "Yeah, just looking at some cars, maybe something used. My birthday's next month and—" "Do you have an appointment?" the man cut in. He was already walking toward them. Malik paused. "No, we don't allow unsupervised minors in the showroom," he interrupted, glancing at a co-worker across the room. "Company policy." Ayana's face changed. "We're not touching anything." "Still, this isn't a hangout." His voice turned colder. "You can check the website if you're interested." Silence filled the room. Malik opened his mouth, then shut it. Ayana's fingers gripped her bag strap tight. "We'll leave," Malik said quietly. And they did. No yelling, no arguing, just a slow walk back across the parking lot, Ayana holding her breath the whole time. She didn't speak until they were in the back seat of the Uber. "That man looked at us like we were nothing." Malik nodded once, jaw tight. He tapped his phone screen, checked the ride time, then stared out the window. Ayana watched his reflection in the glass. She didn't like how quiet he'd gotten. He wasn't loud to begin with, but this was different. This wasn't silence, this was holding it in. She'd seen that same look on their dad's face once before. "You're not going to tell Dad, are you?" she asked. Malik didn't answer right away. "I don't know," he finally said. "I don't even know what to call it. It's not like the guy said anything crazy. He just didn't want us there." "It felt crazy to me," Ayana said, leaning back. Neither of them spoke for the rest of the ride. They didn't need to. They both knew what had happened. But the man at the dealership had no idea who he'd just kicked out. By the next morning, he was about to find out. The Uber turned through the hills of Paradise Valley, where the houses got bigger, quieter, and farther apart the higher you went. Behind the tinted windows of the black SUV, Ayana sat with her arms crossed, still fuming. Malik stayed silent, phone in hand, but screen dark, his mind far away. Their house came into view, a modern white and stone home behind a discreet gate. Not flashy, but expensive in that way only old money or very smart money looks. Their father, Charles Townsend, had built his tech empire from nothing, starting with fixing hardware in Flagstaff before hitting it big with a data security startup. These days, people mentioned him in Forbes and Silicon Valley panels, but around here he was just Charles. The kids came in through the side door and dropped their stuff by the bench near the kitchen. The house smelled faintly of cedar and fresh laundry, home. Their housekeeper, Mrs. K, looked up from the dining table where she was folding towels. "Hey y'all, everything good?" "Yeah," Ayana mumbled. Malik didn't say anything. Down the hall, their father's voice called out, "Malik?" He appeared in the hallway a moment later, navy polo, barefoot, holding a tablet. "You're back early?" Malik just shrugged. Didn't stay long. Charles immediately noticed how his son's shoulders drooped and how he wouldn't meet his eyes. He glanced at Ayana. Her face said more than she meant it to. "What happened?" Malik stayed quiet. Charles set the tablet down and crossed his arms. "Malik?" Ayana sighed. "Some guy at the dealership said we couldn't be there." Charles frowned. "Which dealership?" "Madison Auto Gallery, off University Drive." "What exactly did he say?" Malik rubbed the back of his neck. "Didn't want us looking around. Said they don't let minors in without a parent. Said we were hanging out." Charles didn't move for a long moment. His eyes narrowed, not with anger, but with that calm, focused look that meant he was already planning 3 steps ahead. "What did you do?" "We left," Malik said. "Didn't want to make a scene." That hit hard. Charles took a breath, walked into the kitchen, and poured a glass of water. He handed it to Malik before speaking again. "You did the right thing, you hear me?" Malik nodded once. Then his father sat down at the counter stool and looked him straight in the eye. "I want you to understand something. You are not less than anyone. I don't care if you walk in wearing track clothes or a tuxedo. You hold your head high. If someone sees you as a problem, that's their problem, not yours." Ayana leaned against the fridge, listening. Charles kept going, voice steady and calm. "But you should also know this. Staying silent isn't always strength. Sometimes you let people get away with little things and they keep doing it to the next person, and the next." Malik swallowed. "So, what are you going to do?" Charles didn't answer right away. He looked at both of them, then stood up and pulled out his phone. "I'm going to have a conversation." Ayana blinked. "With who?" "With whoever runs that place," he said, walking out of the room. The rest of the day passed in a strange calm. No shouting, no urgent calls. Charles cooked dinner like always, grilled salmon, asparagus, rice. They ate as a family. But something in the air had shifted. It wasn't anger, it was purpose. That night, Malik lay staring at the ceiling for a long time before sleep came. He didn't know what his dad meant by a conversation, but he had a feeling it would be louder than any shouting could ever be. Across town, the man at the dealership had no idea a storm was already on its way. Madison Auto Gallery opened at 9 sharp. By 8:45, staff were trickling in, keys jingling, coffee cups in hand, sunglasses still on. Just another Monday. Derek Holton, the assistant sales manager, leaned against the front desk with his iced Americano, scrolling through his phone. Half the names in his inbox were strangers now. Turnover was high. The job paid well if you knew how to sell. And he knew how to sell. By 9:03 they had one customer in the lot. A navy blue Rolls-Royce Phantom, gleaming under the Arizona sun. It didn't pull into a regular spot or idle in back. It glided right up to the front doors and stopped. No one got out at first. Derek glanced at the receptionist, then stepped around the desk. "You expecting an appointment?" "Nope," she said, eyes fixed on the car. Then the door opened. Out stepped a tall man in a dark blazer, slacks sharp enough to cut glass, and shoes polished like a mirror. He moved slowly and calmly, not wasting a single step. He pushed open the glass door and paused at the entrance for a moment. "Good morning," he said, his voice smooth but firm. "I'm looking for your manager." Derek hesitated. I'm the assistant manager. What can I help you with?" The man looked him straight in the eye. "You're not who I need." That's when Kyle Lenson, the general manager, stepped out from the side office, tall, red-faced, always looking a bit too stressed. "Morning," Kyle said quickly. "I'm Kyle. Can I ask what brings you in?" The man reached into his jacket pocket and handed him a card. Kyle read the name slowly. Charles Townsend, founder and chairman, TNS Global. He looked up, his face draining of color. Wow, sir, I wasn't expecting." "I imagine you weren't," Charles replied, stepping further inside. "I won't take much of your time." Kyle gestured awkwardly to his office, glancing at Derek. We can talk in here." But Charles didn't move. "No need for privacy. This is a public place. I'll only speak for a few minutes." Kyle nodded stiffly, clearly uneasy. "Of course, go ahead." Charles looked around the showroom. "Yesterday, 2 kids came in here. One was my son, the other my daughter." Kyle blinked, swallowing hard. "They were told they couldn't look around, that they should leave, that this place wasn't for them." "Sir, we have—" Kyle started, but Charles raised a hand. "I'm not here to argue. I'm not here for a refund. I didn't lose anything yesterday, but you did. You lost the chance to do right by 2 young people who were taught to respect others, even when that respect isn't returned." A few employees drifted closer, pretending to tidy up or check paperwork, listening closely. Charles went on, "My children aren't troublemakers. They're thoughtful, smart, raised well. They don't need your approval, but they did deserve to be treated like people, not like threats." Derek stared down at his shoes. The receptionist had stopped typing completely. Kyle cleared his throat. "Mr. Townsend, if I may—" "I'm not asking for an apology," Charles said firmly. "Apologies are easy. What matters is what you do when nobody's watching. What you believe when you think no one will call you out." He paused and let the silence hang in the air. "Because next time, it won't be my kids. It might be someone who doesn't have a father with media contacts, and they'll walk out of here with a memory you'll never hear about, but they'll carry it for the rest of their life." He turned to leave. Just before pushing the door open, he added without looking back, "You can sell luxury without being small. I hope you figure out how." Outside, a small crowd had gathered. A few people were recording on their phones. One local reporter, tipped off, held a mic, and a woman from the news station was already mid-sentence, unsure if she was live yet. Charles stepped down onto the dealership pavement with calm, steady ease. His expression didn't change at the sight of the growing crowd. 2 college students stood off to the side, whispering while they filmed. A woman from KXME5 News was speaking into her mic, half-hushed. Charles didn't shout. He didn't look for a podium. He just stopped near the front doors, adjusted his jacket sleeve, and spoke clearly. "I wasn't planning to say anything today, but I know how this works. If I don't say it now, someone else will try to say it for me." He lifted his eyes, looking at every face turned his way. "Malik and my daughter Ayana came here yesterday afternoon. They weren't loud, they weren't fooling around. They just wanted to look, like any young person would, with a little excitement in their chest and a dream in their head." His voice didn't waver. It wasn't loud, it was so calm, so steady, that people leaned in just to catch every word. But they were asked to leave. Not because they broke a rule, not because they touched something they shouldn't have, but because someone here decided before they even spoke, that they didn't belong, that they were a problem. A college student, recording, let out a shaky breath, fighting tears. Charles kept going. I've spent my whole life building something that will outlast me, and I've taught my kids that what you build doesn't just live in your bank account. It lives in how you treat people, in the everyday choices you make when no one's watching. He paused. Not for drama, but because what came next mattered. Yesterday, someone looked at my children and didn't see who they are. They saw who they assumed they were, and they threw them out. You don't have to yell to disrespect someone. You just have to make them feel small in a place they were excited to walk into. Behind the glass doors, Kyle stood motionless, hands deep in his pockets, eyes locked on the man he couldn't stop now. Charles glanced over his shoulder at him, just once, then turned back to the small crowd. I'm not asking anyone to cancel this place. I don't believe in that. I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just tired. Tired of seeing the same thing happen over and over. Good kids made to feel like criminals before they do a single thing wrong. And if no one speaks up, it keeps happening, quiet, unchecked. Just another scar that nobody sees but the person carrying it. More bystanders had stopped on the sidewalk. Across the street, a delivery driver slid down his sunglasses for a better look. I came today because my kids didn't deserve that, and because I want them to know. When something's wrong, you don't swallow it. You face it head-on, with clarity, with dignity, and without letting it turn you into what you're standing against. He stepped back toward the Rolls-Royce, hand on the door handle. One more thing. He looked at the crowd one last time. My kids walked out yesterday with their heads up. That says everything about them, and nothing about the man who tried to shrink them. He opened the car door and got in without another word. No one clapped. No one cheered. They just stood there, silent, thinking about what they'd just seen and what it said about so much more. Inside the showroom, Derek slowly sat down. The receptionist had tears in her eyes and didn't know why. Kyle stayed by the window, arms stiff at his sides. He knew, deep down, it was too late to spin this. By that afternoon, the first video hit Twitter, then Instagram, then the local news, and the story started breathing on its own. By lunchtime, what had begun as a shaky, vertical phone clip filmed by a freshman named Tori Clemens had already passed 2 million views on X. Her caption read, "This man just walked into a dealership that disrespected his kids and handled it with so much class. I'm actually speechless." People didn't just share it, they analyzed it, paused it, zoomed in, debated every word, and tone in comment threads a mile long. Under one post, a woman from Flagstaff commented, "Charles Townsend fixed my dad's laptop in 2001 and wouldn't take a dime." That man's been built different from the start. Not everyone was kind. One anonymous account with an eagle profile picture sneered, "Why didn't the kids just say who their father was?" Sounds like they wanted to play victim. But it didn't matter. By the next morning, local talk shows were covering it. Good Morning Phoenix ran a segment titled, "Billionaire Father Calls Out Discrimination at Tempe Car Dealership." Within hours, the dealership's Yelp rating crashed from 4.2 to 2.1. One-star reviews popped up like weeds. Rude and dismissive staff treated my teenage son like a criminal, never going back. If you're not wearing a suit and tie, don't bother walking in. They'll ask you to leave before you even speak. Not all the backlash came from strangers either. Local activists seized the story, demanding bigger conversations about everyday bias and how young people are seen. And in the middle of it all, the dealership posted a statement, 2 bland paragraphs on their website and Instagram page, "We regret." The dealership statement said, "We regret the recent experience that took place at our showroom and are actively reviewing our policies, we strive to provide a welcoming environment to all guests and take these matters seriously. The comments underneath said everything. You're only sorry because you got caught. Reviewing policies? How about reviewing your employees? This apology has the warmth of a parking ticket. Behind the scenes, Kyle Lenson was scrambling. He'd already called 2 PR consultants. Both gave him the same advice. Say less. Lay low. Do not try to spin it. But the internet didn't care about PR playbooks. People wanted transparency. They wanted names. They wanted real change. Meanwhile, Malik and Ayana sat at home, phones buzzing non-stop. Friends, strangers, unknown numbers. Ayana showed her brother one message that made them both laugh, despite everything. Girl, is that your dad on the news? Tell him to run for office or something, I'm dead. But then came the harsher ones. Why didn't you all just walk away? Ain't nobody owe you a car. Not everything is about race. So what? Rich people want sympathy now? Malik stared at his screen, jaw tight. Ayana nudged his shoulder. Don't read that stuff. He didn't answer. He kept scrolling anyway. Their father walked in, holding 2 mugs of tea. Phone's down, Charles said gently. Malik hesitated, then set his phone face down. Ayana did the same. Charles sat across from them and leaned in a little closer. You two didn't ask for this, but sometimes life decides your story's bigger than just you. Ayana frowned. But we didn't even do anything, we just walked in. I know, Charles said. That's what makes it so real. You did everything right, and still, someone saw you wrong. Malik stared at the table. Is it always going to be like that? Charles let the question hang in the quiet room before answering. Number. But you'll face it again, and when you do, you decide who you want to be in that moment. Outside, reporters still circled the neighborhood. Inside, something stronger than anger was growing. Awareness. And awareness doesn't fade. The sun dipped behind Camelback Mountain, throwing long shadows across the backyard. It had been 2 days since Charles spoke at the dealership. 2 days of headlines, messages, and noise. But here, behind the hedges, it was calm. Charles stood at the grill, flipping salmon fillets in a slow rhythm. Malik sat at the patio table, elbows on his knees, staring out at the yard. Ayana leaned on the railing, her face hidden in her hoodie. No cameras, no questions, just family. You know, Charles said, not looking up, when I was 16, I saved up for 2 years to buy my first car, 94 Corolla, faded red, had to roll the windows down by hand. Ayana cracked a smile. You said it had no AC, right? None? Charles chuckled. Phoenix summer nearly cooked me alive, but I loved that car, not because it was nice, but because I earned it. Malik turned to him. You ever get treated like we did? Charles nodded once. More times than I could count. Walked into stores and got followed. Tried to get bank loans and got laughed at. Once, I got denied service at a diner in Tucson. Sat there with my code books in my lap. Didn't make a scene, just left. Why not say something back like you did now? Malik asked. Charles flipped another fillet. Because back then I didn't think my voice mattered. I thought keeping my head down was the only way forward. He paused. The grill hissed softly. But I was wrong. See, you spend enough time swallowing disrespect, you start to forget what being seen feels like. And I never wanted that for you, or for your sister. Ayana sat down next to Malik. Well, you definitely made sure we got seen. Charles looked at both of them. Being seen isn't enough. You got to be ready for what comes with it. The praise, the criticism, the people who will love you for standing up, and the ones who will hate you for it. Malik sighed. I didn't even want it to be a thing. I just wanted to look at a car. I know, Charles said. That's what makes it powerful. You weren't performing, you were just living your life. And someone didn't like what that looked like. They sat with that for a moment. I'm proud of you, Charles said at last. Both of you. You didn't shout. You didn't prove anything. You just stayed true to who you are. Ayana shrugged. Didn't feel brave. It's not supposed to, he said. Bravery's quiet most of the time. It's just not backing down from being decent in a world that sometimes isn't. A long silence settled over the yard. Then Ayana grinned. So, are we still getting a car, or what? Charles laughed. I thought you'd never ask. Malik sat up, eyes wide. Wait, for real? Charles tossed a set of keys across the table. They landed with a soft clink right in front of Malik's hand. Check the garage tomorrow, he said. But remember, it's not about the car, it's about who you become while driving it. That matters more than anything with an engine. Ayana bumped Malik's shoulder, teasing. You better not crash it on day one. Please, Malik shot back. I'm driving like it's made of glass. Charles laughed. And for the first time in days, the weight started to lift. Some stories end in outrage, others in silence. But this one ends with a lesson. Sometimes the best way to fight back is to keep standing, calm, honest, unmoved. If this story moved you, share it. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that challenge, connect, and remind us who we really are.